hear me, although I'm not able to look at it. Go into my live stream. So I'm gonna check real quick to see if anybody is on. That's not here. Yeah, big one. Nothing. If you can hear me, but
That was just gonna have to work. This is. All right. So this is going to be a training on energy entanglements. It's a fairly new service to me. I don't know, I say I've been doing it for like a year. So I don't have a ton of experience with it, but it's something that I discovered. I don't know if anybody else knows about it. I haven't heard about anybody knowing anything else about it. So what is an energy entanglement? So it is an entanglement of energy and almost an entanglement of souls where two people are bound together by a cord. And it's not just a cord, it is like embedded inside of their energy body. And it like wraps itself around just inside their energy, depending on how bad of an entanglement it is. I've seen some pretty bad ones. I've seen some that were not too bad. Like they person had tried to do a cord removal ritual and it was kind of a little, it was small and not really thick. So it looks like if I could just if you could just see like roots like digging into somebody, corded roots. It looks very organic, almost like a tree vine. You see the vines, and then they bundle up together into the thickness. It looks a lot like that. Um, and it causes a lot of issues, like the person that you have the entanglement with. It can cause you to dream about them, to think about them all the time, almost obsess over them. And it can also cause the other person to do the same thing. Like maybe there's an ex that you can't let go, or there's there's some kind of PTSD connection with a toxic ex. Like that's a big one. And from what I can tell, it's like almost like a soul entanglement as well, because there's soul pieces like wrapped up in there. It's not just like an energy cord. Like this person's soul is literally latched onto yours and is feeding off of you. And it can be pretty nasty. So, um, they, like I said, they can affect you through like you thinking about the other person all the time, dreams about this person. And some people think, oh, it's because they're my soulmate, they're my twin flame. Blah, blah, blah. No, they're fucking not. They just have a nasty soul entanglement with you. A lot of times, these people that, from what I can tell, the people that do the soul entanglements do not know that they're doing it. I'm just gonna make sure my Discord's like blowing up. I'll just make sure it's not you guys telling me you can't hear me. Okay, looks good. So it's what was I saying? Um, soul and yeah, it's like it's not because it's a soulmate, it's because they entangled, like they attached this almost a sickness like thing to you. I've seen some really nasty ones where they were like black and like twisted inside people, and it's like, what is that? And I could trace it back and asking them questions and stuff. I could trace it back to an ex, ultimately an ex-boyfriend or ex-girlfriend, and they still thought about this person all the time. And also I want to say that the people that do these entanglements, a lot of them don't even believe in magic at all. Like they're just vampires. I haven't really seen a healthy entanglement, maybe because I don't look for them. I imagine that you can have a healthy entanglement, like a healthy bond with somebody where your souls kind of mesh together and it's not all unhealthy. Like if you find somebody that you really have a connection with, I imagine you have some kind of soul attachment to them, but that's different. That's completely different. I'm talking about the more sinister attachments and cord entanglements. Okay. I did make a list of. So the way that they get into a person, the people that I've done this for, it was for like a long-term relationship. I don't think this is like, oh, you meet somebody and the next day you have a soul entanglement or a week later. This is like long-term stuff. It's kind of like it kind of feels like psychological manipulation kind of a relationship where they're getting inside your head and they're gaslighting you and they're slowly clawing their way into your body, like your energy body, and just like taking over is a very controlling energy. And it's hard to get rid of. Like you really have to dig it out. Okay. And I will go over how to do that. I'm gonna turn off my Discord because it's making noises. It's distracting. Okay, there we go. Okay. Um, so so they come from like long-term toxic relationships mostly. And this can also be from a parent. Like if you have a toxic parent and you can't seem to let them go, like a narcissist mom or a narcissist father, they can easily soul entangle with you, maybe soul entangle with several people. And like I said, they don't even know that they're doing this a lot of the time. And they just know that they want control and they want to manipulate you and they want you to do what they want you to do. That's what they know, and that's kind of their energetic way of doing it. Because everybody can manipulate energy, whether or not they even believe in energy. Okay, so how they are different from chords. Chords are kind of like they don't have a root really. They're not embedded into the person on a really deep level. So you can have chords and attachments to just about anything, like objects, ideas, ways of thinking, behaviors, like those are um you could have chords to those and possibly entanglements to those. Like that's something I should probably look more into. Like that sounds really interesting just to because, it seems to take a lot for people to detach from certain ways of thinking or behaviors. They're not Chords are not quite as harsh. You can get a chord from anywhere. You could see somebody on a subway or out in public and accidentally stick a chord in them because you thought they were good looking or interesting or whatever. And then, and then you kind of have this connection. So they're really kind of, I wouldn't say innocent. They're definitely not innocent. Um, you can get cord attachments to like people on television. Like I wonder like people on television how they take care of their energy. They must know this stuff because when you watch somebody and you have, you connect with them, a lot of times you send out cords and you don't even know it. You talk about a person, um, you think about a person, you're sending cords to them. So it's more of like a little like stuck on the surface kind of thing. That's what cords are. But they're really, so maybe a cord cutting with a candle and spiritual help could remove those things. But for the really deep entanglements, those you have to do a little bit extra work. And I'm sure that you could ask a spirit to help you with this if you don't know how to see in the astral, see this cord, and then pull this stuff out. You can ask for help. And I imagine they can do that. I know spirits have dug things out of me before and I could feel them like digging inside my energy. And I always wondered what the hell they were doing. And now I'm just like, oh, okay. I bet they were digging out some nasty attachments, soul entanglements, things like that, and blockages or whatever. But they can absolutely help you with that. Um, so there are like, oh, what are those things called? Hooks. I knew this woman who she was single and she went on a date with this man, and she said that she met him and she didn't like him, and she was just like, okay, I tried to end it or whatever. But I kept waking up every morning and I was thinking about him. And she's like, do you know anything about this? And this was somebody that I knew in person. And I'm like, yeah, I can take a look. And so I took a look and she had this like hook. So there's a cord and then a hook stuck in her back. And I said, oh, yeah, you got a nasty cord stuck in your back. Like this guy was obviously some kind of vampire. Like, I don't want to diagnose people, but a lot of narcissists will hook you like that. And I think when they hook you, that's when they can, if you allow it to continue, they can make a soul entanglement. But so I went and I pulled out that hook out of her back, just like whoop, cut it off. And she said she could feel it. And this was like in the beginning of my journey, a long time ago. And she said she could feel it. And then the next day she said she woke up and she wasn't thinking about him at all. Like the thought of him kind of grossed her out. And I'm like, holy shit, that's bad. Like the people can just hook you like that. So I think that's the beginning of an entanglement. And the people that do them are very toxic a lot of the time. Or if you're doing them, you could be toxic. So I wanted to draw a pretty picture about where I've seen entanglements, like the most common places. Hopefully you could still hear me. Drink, see. So, that's good. I know you love my beautiful artwork. You don't have to. Okay, this is my stick guy. Uh, I did not get the artistic abilities in my family. It came out in other ways. All right. Boop, 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 boop. Isn't he cute? Wait, we gotta give him some hair. Five. Here we go. Oh, a nose. His nose. There. Okay. So the number one place that I've found these are in the back of the head because especially if it's like psychopathic people, narcissistic people, they'll try to get into your head and manipulate you, right? Like manipulative, toxic people will get in, you know, it'll just mind fuck you, and that's what they're doing. So they're sticking a piece of themselves literally into your energy body, like a part of their soul. Like it's so invasive. So anyway, so it's back of the head, and it kind of looks like this, and it swirls around like a vine. So this little guy, what should we name him? Let's call him Freddy. Freddy here has no idea that he has an energy entanglement. His thoughts are barely his own. He was in a terrible relationship for 10 plus years with a manipulative, toxic person. And he's just walking around ruminating on all the terrible things they did to him and all of the things that they said the big one. You hear their voice in your head when you have an energy entanglement. Okay. So it goes in. Can you guys see that? So it's going into carefully. Okay. You guys can see that. It's when I find them, they're embedded into the person's energy. They're pretty much taking over their brain, even up to the eyes. Like it's black and twisted. A lot like that. So it'll look like that in the astral. I really wanted to use my other camera, but hopefully you guys can see that. And so this is where it kind of takes over his thoughts and his mind. And he has dreams and he hears the person's voice in his head and replays PTSD moments from that person. And meanwhile, this person is over here. Living their best fucking life. No, we'll make this one a woman because women can be toxic too, guys. They're living their best fucking life over here. All right, with an entanglement from themselves in this person or several different people, because we know that toxic people will bounce from person to person and try to um, get you in their grasp quickly, and that does not release Fred here from her grasp. But meanwhile, she's like, you know, hooking other people. While she still has you and feeding off you. And if you notice, like, I mean, it's not always true, but there are some like psychopathic people or narcissistic people that will do really well in life, and you're like, what the fuck? That's because they're feeding off of all of their victims for years. Yeah. Hold on a second. Oh, Jason is being distracting. Yeah. Okay. So that's pretty much how it works. And another place that I have found them is more like the family member side of it, which makes sense because like the stomach is where you keep old family trauma. So if you have like a toxic mom or a toxic dad and you have some PTSD around that, you can have an entanglement in your gut. And I have seen quite a few of these as well. And these will entangle into your stomach and give you all kinds of stomach issues. And it causes a feeling of just feeling empty inside, or even bloated, they had IBS symptoms, um, whatever other gut symptoms you can possibly have could be tied to an entanglement from a family member. But these, I see them less often because in our community, like people that come to me, they understand what healing is a lot of the time, and they've worked through a lot of family trauma. And so this is weakens quite a bit, or detached completely. It takes a lot for a parent to entangle their child. Like they have to be currently entangling their child. Because what I can tell, like they say, like for an entanglement, like a soul entanglement, or for those people that say, oh, if you have sex with somebody, you are connected with them for 7 years or something. And I think that the soul entanglements have a similar expiration date. So this would be, after a few years, it would kind of ease up and even get thinner as the parent does not have as much control or influence over this person anymore as they assert their boundaries and they're like, okay, we're done with this shit. All right. This, so these are often quite less, but they're still there. Um, Sometimes, not always. I see those less often. Other places I've seen them are in the back. Very popular place for energy entanglements. And these are the ones that are behind you are a good hint that this person was manipulating you and you thought they were a good person, then you let them in and then they, they're the sneaky ones because they're in your back. It's behind your back. You can't see it. It's not in front of you. It's like right here. Like the head one. And maybe you did see it after, and that's why they're your ex, but then it's still stuck in your head. It's a lot of the manipulative person. And the one that's in your back can root itself through your back and into your heart center. So it makes it pretty dangerous. Um, it can cause like heart disease, heart palpitations, any kind of heart issues because it's a foreign object in your energy. Okay. There we go. Poor guy. He's all fucked up. All right, so and the heart center too, directly into your heart center. This is more like if I were to guess, have I seen one in the heart center? I'm really trying to think if I've seen one. It's more rare, but it's kind of like that energy that, oh, I know this person is terrible, but I'm still gonna let them in. Maybe it's your child, right? Maybe it's your aunt or it's somebody that's not really uh your direct family member, or maybe it's your niece or your nephew, or it's more of like a I know this person's bad, but I'm gonna care for them kind of thing. Like that's where that energy comes from, and that's also just as dangerous because it entangles into your heart. Can a person have several entanglements? Absolutely. That person is probably not doing very well emotionally or physically or any fucking way spiritually, because they're being drained from all directions. So it can be very dangerous. Poor Freddie. There. Okay. Let's see if there's anything else I want to say about that. But those are the main places that energy entanglements hide out. And they're actually really fucking obvious once you get and you look. And I like to ask people before I do entanglements, is there someone in particular that you think you're entangled with? And then I will look in that spot first. So if it's like a secondary family member or somebody, a friend, that's a good one for the heart, is like, I'm trying to save my friend. Meanwhile, they're entangling your heart center with their energy, or, it's an old family member, dad, mom. That's a big one for the stomach area, or the head, which is a lot of the times an X, a toxic X in the back, another toxic X one. Okay. So if you do this for somebody, ask them, like, who do you think you're entangled with? Do you have somebody in mind that you might have an entanglement with? And they might know, and then sometimes they don't know. And you're just like, okay, well, I'll look everywhere. Just like set the intention to look for toxic entanglements. All right, let's see. Um, and the seriously, the fucking relief that people get when I pull these things out are not subtle. They are not fucking subtle at all. People are like, "Oh my God, my stomach feels like it's so much lighter." And then or like I had one person, their eyes changed color. This was one that I did in person. They had a toxic X, and I pulled it out of the back of their head, and I dug in and I pulled out the pieces, and their eyes went from a dark blue. I didn't even know this person had blue eyes. That's how dark they were. Like I didn't even notice. And when I pulled that entanglement out, their eyes went from dark blue to light blue. And I don't mean like, oh, it's changed a little bit over time. No, it was fucking evident immediately. It's like, I didn't know your eyes are blue. Like, and I had known this person for a while. Like, I had no idea your eyes are blue. So it can change your appearance even. Your appearance. It's crazy. And also what I want to say about this, the stomach, where somebody is vampirizing you from your stomach area, you can feel hungry all the time. Like like I said, like you have stomach issues, but like raging hunger all the time because somebody's literally vampirizing your stomach. So you're looking to fill that with food because there's energy coming out and it's a leakage. Okay. So I did want to mention that. Uh, that's a big one for anybody that had like overeating problems, or you might be thinking about something in the past and all of a sudden you just want to eat a bunch of food. It's because that person is literally vampirizing you. Okay. So the way to get rid of these, I will be taking questions after, guys, because I can't switch back and forth here, and my phone won't let me see the lives anymore. Um, so make sure you write down your questions or remember your questions. So the way to get rid of these is actually pretty simple, but it can be kind of time consuming. Um, it's so worth it. I mean, it's not that time consuming. I would say it's not like planetary reading time consuming. It can be time consuming because you're going in with your clairvoyance, with your remote viewing, and you're looking for this cord. So the first thing you want to do is tug at this cord, okay? It can be physically painful too. So that's another thing I need to mention right away before this person that I pulled a cord out in their head. So they had a headache the next day. It felt like they've been hit in the back of the head. So there is a physical aspect to this. So do keep that in mind and do tell your clients, like, hey, you might be a little sore here the next day. Or just know that if you do it on yourself, you might be a little sore in that spot the next day. And that's totally normal from what I've seen. So to really start, I like to start by just tugging at the cord. I mean, describing like what it looks like to the client, be like, oh, it's thick or it's thin, or just telling them how it looks, tugging on it to see if it'll just come out like that. But a lot of the times, if it's like a really bad entanglement, it won't come out like that. So I have to go in and untangle it, like pull out little pieces. So see how this is like this? I just kind of like go in and I pull out little pieces at a time, just little pieces at a time, so it's not so deep and not so strong, so that I don't hurt Fred here too much. Because if you just yanked it out, I can't imagine that would feel very good. Plus, you're still gonna need to go in and pull the pieces. And also you can't just cut cords either. So if you see an entanglement and you're like, oh, that's a cord, I'm just gonna cut it. What's gonna happen? That piece is still in there. That big piece is still in their head. That person is still in their head. You don't really do anything. It's just gonna reattach in a day. Like so that is the big difference between cord cutting and entanglements, is the entanglement's still there, the root's still there, it's still digging into the person. So you want to go in and just slowly remove all of the roots. Pluck them out, throw them into a portal. I like to open a portal to Arizona. But it's not because I hate Arizona. It's because I really want to go to Arizona. And also because I don't think these, like, this is not parasites in particular, but I don't think things like this can necessarily survive in Arizona. So, like, when I take parasites out of people and I throw them in a portal to Arizona, they don't live. Like, they can't live without a host. I throw it into the middle of the desert. So they just die. So if you live in Arizona, don't worry. So yeah, so then I clear out Fred's head here the best that I can, and then I will tug at it again. Tug, we'll tug, and then whoop, and then come it out, and I just pull it, and it should come right out, and then throw it away. Sometimes if I'm feeling a little vengeance, I'll be like, motherfucker, and I'll like throw it at the person that put it there and like watch them fall into a pit of despair, hopefully. There, so this person is left with this just dangling cord there, and that person is not your problem. Like, Fred is your problem. Well, not your problem, your client. Like, he's what matters here. Okay. There, so he might feel a little bit achy right here in the back of his head. Might have some pain there. Take some Tylenol, you'll be okay. At least you don't have a horrible entanglement anymore. And it's the same thing with the rest of the body. Kind of tug at it, untangle it, tug at it, untangle it. Then rip it out. Boom. Untangle, rip it out. Okay. I just said before I know that Fred is free of entanglements and he's lost his arms. Sorry, buddy. Here. Happy. Haha, I'm so free and light. And he's gonna have a lot better mental health now because he doesn't have a bunch of entanglements. And I don't know about this. I don't know if you have sex with somebody, if it entangles you and encords you for 7 years. Like, I don't know if that's true or not. It sounds like bullshit, but it might be crazy to be true. If there was a cord, like, it wouldn't be a very strong one. Um, Cords are built by emotions, guys. Like, entanglements are built by emotions and manipulation, anger, lovely things like that. So yeah, is there anything else I wanted to add to this? Doop doop doop. They're vampiric, very vampiric. They look like parts of the other person's soul wrapping into your soul, and they can go very deep. All right, let me see if we can. If you guys have any questions. Quick. Shoot. Sorry. That's all I can think of about entanglements that I know. Do you guys have any questions? I think it's awesome you guys are doing a ritual tomorrow with Belial. I think it's awesome that Eric is leading that. Any questions, guys? Okay. Um, and if you guys think you might have an anger energy entanglement of your own, or you think somebody else might have one and you want to do entanglement removal on that person or on yourself, definitely reach out to me. I can give you some tips and direction how to do that. I would assume that you have an energy entanglement if you've ever been in a toxic relationship, if you've ever, especially a long-term one, like if you have a toxic parent, you possibly have one. Um, especially if you still talk to them all the time. I'm not saying every toxic parent will entangle you, but it's a possibility. Any questions? I don't know who's watching. All right, well, if you do have any questions, just reach out to me on the Discord and I will be happy to help. Excuse me. Ready. Can't leave it like that. Leave him alone. Okay. All right, guys. I hope you enjoyed this and it was clear enough. Sorry about the issues earlier. And I hope you have a fabulous weekend. Bye, guys. Mwah.